Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome. That, as they say, is that. Marvel Comics. Let's go ahead and get started. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is Tuesday. That means we get to take an advance look at these particular collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, I do want to thank David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advance copies of all of these books. These books are due out in the direct market and book market on November 21st or 22nd, depending on where you get your books. And what we're looking at here are a Marvel Masterwork, an art book, and trade paperbacks. And something you may notice, which is really, really rare, so there's no Epic Collection this week. No, the Epic Collection comes out next week, so you're not missing out on anything. Of course, it's also the week that the Incredible Hulk Omnibus Volume 2 comes out. Now, as always, I'll put timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around in case you're curious about one or two titles or all of them. But before you go jumping anywhere, don't forget to smash that like button, please. It goes a long way for the channel. It's a very small... Uncanny Omar talk pretty one day. It's a very small thing you can do. Alright, let's go ahead and start. Let's do Mandalorian. Kicking off this week worth of books is the Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 2, Part 1. So this continues the story of Din Djarin and little Grogu. And we are immediately jumping in there where we last left off, where this time around, however, he's going to be joining a bunch of other different types of Mandalorians. One very important one, as a matter of fact. Now, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that it was probably wise, or it would be wise, to watch the TV show first, the Disney Plus show, before reading the comic, because this is just a straight adaptation of the comic brought to you by Rodney Barnes, George Genti, Carl Story, Steve Cummings, Rochelle Rosenberg, and Joe Caramagna. So this is just an adaptation. If you haven't seen it, well, I guess, maybe, I don't know, maybe there are some people that just want the comic adaptation and don't care about watching the show. So we do see some familiar faces coming back from the first season of The Mandalorian, but one of the most important things that shows up in here, or one of the most important costumes that shows up here, is the remains of this particular Mandalorian. The Mandalorian that started it all for most of us. And that is, of course, Boba Fett. However, it's not Boba Fett underneath this costume. As a matter of fact, Din Djarin immediately notices that this guy's able to take off his helmet. But who this turns out to be is Cobb Vanth, and he is the marshal of this particular city, or this town rather, that is having to deal with some crate dragons that are just going and destroying this town. And he's hired the help of the Mandalorian. Of course, what does this mean? Where is the original Boba Fett? We knew of his fate in the Return of the Jedi, but with the comic book adaptation, could something else have happened to him? Could he be somewhere else? Could he still be alive? Well, you can find out for yourself. The next story arc is about transporting this frog lady with her babies, which are nothing but eggs, and of course, Grogu has an appetite for these eggs, so he just wants to eat them, and the Mandalorian has to get some help from rogue squadron pilots. And then we see another group of Mandalorians, and one in particular that is very important, and that is this young lady right here. And that is Bo-Katan. And of course, she's a big part of the Star Wars universe. So she made her live action appearance, and now she's making her comic appearance, but she originally started out in the series The Clone Wars. Now, this book has 144 pages, collecting the first 4 issues of Season 2. In the back, we have some variant covers. This one retails for $24.99. And some of the variant covers are splash pages, and some of them are thumbnail-size pages. Daredevil and Echo. So this is another series that takes place during the Chip Zdarsky run of Daredevil. It might spoil some things, so I strongly advise at least reading the first 12 issues of that run. Well, no, at least the first 18 issues, because this takes place probably a little bit right after the Devil's Reign. So, I take it back. Go to all the way to Devil's Reign. Otherwise, this might spoil some of the things that happened in Daredevil and in Devil's Reign. So, this is a really interesting story because we have the return of Echo, who has been, of course, running around with the Avengers. And we have Matt Murdock. These two characters have met in the past. As a matter of fact, that's where Echo first appeared. Maya Lopez. But this has more to do with something that has happened to their ancestors. Somebody is going around killing people, and it's somebody that is close to both Echo and Matt Murdock. But we keep having these flashbacks from 1835 that has something to do with Tommy Murdock, so he is one of Matt Murdock's ancestors, and also Creeping Death, an ancestor of Maya Lopez. And what these ancestors are trying to do is keep this door from opening to hell, because of course that's what you do. And in here you're going to see other characters from the Spider-Man series, like the Dama, what is her name? Dama Goblin. You're going to see characters in here from the Daredevil series as well. Yes, this Dama Goblin. And of course, whenever you're dealing with demons, there's only a couple people in the Marvel Universe that you should call. So I'm glad to see an appearance by one of my favorite characters. Really interesting, though, in the back, after all of the variant covers, is ELEKTRA 100, which was previously collected in the, what was it, The Woman Without Fear trade paperback. This is not going to be included in the Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky Omnibus Volumes 1 or 2. So keep that in mind. But this is another place where you can get it. And it is the fight between ELEKTRA and Typhoid Mary. And then, of course, the tie that brings them together. And since he's the writer on this, so it's kind of like one of those throwback issues. And I'm glad it's collected in here, too, giving you an option as to where to pick it up in case you're wanting everything Daredevil. 136 pages, retails for $17.99. And you saw the variance in between the ELEKTRA and the Daredevil and Echo. So this collects Daredevil and Echo 1 through 4 and ELEKTRA 100. 136 pages, $17.99. And here are your creators, Taboo and B. Earl and Phil Noto. I forgot to mention that Phil Noto is the artist on here, on the 4-issue miniseries. Up next is Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider. And this is one of those miniseries much like Chris Claremont's Extreme X-Men miniseries. We've seen a Gambit miniseries by Chris Claremont. And it's when writers that were originally writing these particular series have a throwback miniseries. I like that these take place in the past when they were currently writing those books. So this is written by Howard Mackie. Danielle Picciotto is the artist, Guru FX is the colorist, and Travis Lanham is the letterer. Wish we could have seen Tex do the artwork in here, but I think Danielle's art is pretty good, though. It gets the job done. It kind of has that mix of, I want to say, like Mark Bagley in there with some Tex. So I kind of dig it. This is all 4 issues of the miniseries, 112 pages, and it's $15.99. So it does take place, like I said, in the past. But by this point, like, it's always hard to say or suggest when to read this miniseries, right? Especially if you're doing a chronological read-through of the Danny Ketch era of Ghost Rider. Because, yeah, you can wait until that whole era is done to read this, because it doesn't really fit in perfectly, because there's a couple of things in here that I was thinking, did that really happen back then? One of the things that bothered me the most was, of course, the use of the cell phone, because if you're reading that, you know it takes place in the early 90s, where ain't no way in hell, no pun intended, that Danny Ketch is using a flip phone. I don't care how ancient the phone looks, it was a flip phone. But here we have Johnny Blaze playing a big part in this. As a matter of fact, there's other characters that play a big part in all of this. So flashback to the creation of Danny Ketch and how he became Ghost Rider, the Spirit of Vengeance. Rachel shows up in here. Johnny Blaze's wife and kids, they're being kidnapped by this opposing family. So there's a couple of families that just want to take over this underworld in New York City. There's a huge gang war that is just breaking out all over New York City, and Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze are caught in the middle of it, and so are the people that they love, including Johnny's family, so it makes them snap. We have a brand new character that shows up here that is kind of souping up these other characters, like Blackout, and Scarecrow, and this is the broker, I think is his name. The caregiver shows up through here, and there's a couple things that happen between him and the broker. And there's a little bit of a twist between one of the, I don't want to call him a kingpin because he does look like a kingpin, or the kingpin, Wilson Fisk. But there's a little bit of a twist behind that character's origin that I really enjoy, that tied it to another series that was going on. Not that you need to read another series to enjoy this, but this was a nice throwback series. Honestly, I really enjoyed this, and I kind of wish we had more and more of this. Mainly because I grew up with that era, and there's this just nostalgia that it comes with opening these pages and seeing what looks to be that early 90s type of art with these character designs from that era, including, to me, the greatest character design for any Ghost Rider, whether it's Johnny or Danny or Robbie. It's always been Danny's design. It's such an awesome design. In the back, we have some variant covers and the art process. Don't know why I'm doing this backwards, but we do have some art by Tex back here. Or at least there is a cover by Tex. And then, of course, Javier Saltares, who was the original artist on the Danny Ketch run. And there is a Stormbreakers variant over here with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Deadpool by Alyssa Wong, Volume 2. And it goes without saying that you probably need to read Volume 1 to enjoy this, even though Alyssa does a good job of catching you up to speed, what's happened in the last few issues. And so if you haven't read them, this collects issues 6 through 10. And those first 5 issues, I'll be honest with you, they did make me chuckle. Not laugh out loud, falling out of my seat, but, the comics really don't make me act that way anymore. I don't get that kind of reaction from comics. From time to time, sometimes I do bust out laughing completely unexpectedly. But the first volume did make me chuckle, which is hard to do, especially with a character like Deadpool, because we've had some really good writers write this character, and some of them are comedians, professional comedians. So Alyssa Wong really surprised me with their dialogue used in the first volume. So this continues from that, where this is Deadpool. He's in love with Valentine. What is her last name? Valentine Wong. He still has Princess, the symbiote dog that he kind of gave birth through Cletus Cassidy in this ridiculous first volume. And like I said, it does catch you up to speed as to what's happened previously. So you do have Valentine Wong, who has now just escaped the Atelier, I believe is how you pronounce that group's name. The group of assassins. And now the group of assassins that are being led by the Horn Emperor are sending out all of these assassins to go after her and bring her back, because for some reason she is really important. And now you have Deadpool helping her against these assassins, so all hell kind of breaks loose. There's some really good issues in here. Without going too much into spoilers, one of my favorite things that they do in here, these are some of the assassins that they send out, is this team up between Lady Deathstrike, so Yuriko, and Princess. So Yuriko has just left the dog Sid, this symbiote dog that eats people and poops them out, because Deadpool's like, oh yeah, you gotta make sure the princess poops, you don't want her to get, her tummy to hurt. And I found that issue to be really funny. It's kind of a throwback to those kind of comedic days. And then you have this really, really interesting issue where Deadpool wakes up. He has a daughter named Ellie. His roommates are Cable, Wolverine, and Domino, and Spider-Man. And he's healed, and that's something that he's always wanted, right? Like, he wants to retire. He wants to be fully healed. He doesn't have those scars anymore. He doesn't have to be in a merc for hire. And I thought this issue was really this part of this collection was really interesting. So you can find out exactly how that ends, and you can find out who the Horn King is. Because I am not going to spoil that. Let's look at the extras in the back. So we do have variant... Oh, no, these are the actual covers because this is the Krakoa era. That's why we have things like this in here. So this is in full color and textless. 144 pages, $15.99. Some variant covers in the back here, too. And some in thumbnail and some in splash pages. And that is Deadpool by Alyssa Wong, Volume 2. And it has come to be that part of the video where we look at all of the spines of the books coming out this week, and also a small reminder to smash that like button, please. Very small thing you can do. Got it right that time. But it goes a long way here for the channel. Alright, let's keep going with the overview. Marvel Masterworks, Werewolf by Night, Volume 2. Boy, this came at the right time. A couple weeks ago, right before Halloween, I ended up reading this. And there's a lot of stories in here I hadn't read because the Werewolf by Night omnibus is something I didn't buy because I had sold my Tuba Dracula books a long time ago. I was like, well, I don't need to get any more horror stuff. So I really enjoyed this. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that this one got the seal of approval. It is a beautiful restoration of this artwork. And there's a lot of fun stories in here. And I'm sure some of the stories in here are repetitive. This is a really interesting introduction. This is by Duane Swierczynski, who has written Cable. He's gone on to do books for... What would he do? Some of the books by Valiant Comics. But he also did the Immortal Iron Fist book. But the Star Wars Rogue One. And he talks about how his dad got him into horror comics because this is weird era of comic books because they had to follow the code, the comics code. So EC kind of fell, and now it just kind of became, you know, like this Wild West of no horror comics for a while. And then slowly they were able to do it with the comics code with some changes, right? And a lot of that was led by Tomb of Dracula. They had to censor some of the things like the blood, and then books that were coming afterwards were, of course, Frankenstein, Ghost Rider, and Werewolf by Night. And this is one that I know is regarded by a lot of people as the second best horror book. Like, I think, at least at Marvel Comics, right? For Marvel Comics, most people are like, oh, Tomb of Dracula, top notch. And it is freaking phenomenal. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Marv Wolfman wrote some of those issues. Most of those issues, sorry. And then most people, I think, agree that Werewolf by Night is the second best horror comic that Marvel put out back then. You know, because there's others too, like I said, that followed through. If you don't have the horror omnibus, I think the second one is out of print. They are wonderful. I really enjoyed those, and I was hoping they would do a third one. So collected in here is Werewolf by Night, 9 through 21, the crossover with Tomb of Dracula, number 18, Giant-Sized Creatures, number 1, and the material from Monsters Unleashed, 6 and 7. The book has 344 pages and retails for $75, like all of the Marvel Masterworks tend to be. So the basic premise, in case you don't know what Werewolf by Night is, other than, hey, I saw that one-shot, pretty witty, pretty creepy, and awesome. Or, hey, I know that that's where Moon Knight first appeared. It is the story of Jack Russell. And I swear that was completely unintentional, that his name was Jack Russell. He ends up growing up in, where was it, in Los Angeles with his mom, his sister, and his stepfather. And they had immigrated from Eastern Europe many, many years ago. And then the night he turns 18, full moon, he becomes a werewolf. And as he learns through the series is that there is a blood curse on all the males in his family line. And it goes back to one of his ancestors. I can't remember the Baron's name. But they ended up like tying it to the Darkhold, which becomes a big part of the whole Spirits of Vengeance in the 90s. That was the first time I ever heard of that. So Jack Russell's not even his real name. I think it's like Jacob Rusoff. But all of this is the beginning of the committee. That's what's happening through these particular issues in here. And we're also going to be getting one very, very... not that any of these gentlemen are not talented writers, but one very talented writer that rightly deserves the duties of writing a character that turns into a werewolf. And that is Marv Wolfman. Finally, Werewolf by Night is being written by a Wolfman, as stated here in issue number 11. You do have artwork by Gil Kane, Tom Sutton, Mike Plug, who, of course, uh, most people knew him from this, and also Ghost Rider. Now, you didn't see a lot of connection to the Marvel Universe. You do have the Hangman story in here that lasts a couple parts. And like I mentioned, and a lot of this is because the committee keeps... And a lot of this happens because the committee has taken an interest in the character of Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night. We do finally get a companion for him, and that is Topaz. Topaz ends up joining him on adventures, so much so that she decides to go with him to Transylvania to find a cure for his werewolf status. So Topaz, along with Jack Russell, end up going to Transylvania, and she sticks around for a while. And the committee sticks around for a while. But who is in Transylvania? None other than Dracula. That's right. Dracula and Werewolf by Night have this crossover with issues 18 of Tomb of Dracula, where they're both... Love this Gene Colan artwork here, too. Harkness shows up through here. Blade is in here. I remember reading these in the Omnibus, and then, of course, the Marvel Masterworks. And then that crosses over into the Werewolf by Night, where the story wraps up. And it's interesting because we also get this character right here, this Victor Hugo character of Quasimodo. Not the Marvel character Quasimodo, but the actual literary character of Quasimodo shows up through here, and there's this big fight and misunderstanding. Again, Topaz is kind of caught in the middle of all of it. And meanwhile, you're learning a little bit more about his history, his mom, and what really happened in the past, what happened to his mom. And we have the return of this character right here. And that's Raymond Cocker, who appears... he was his neighbor, and has the ability to also transform into a werewolf. And we do get some beautiful spread pages through here during that time when Marvel was trying to save money by just paying them the one page and blowing it up into 2 pages. And then you have the giant-sized creatures right here, which has Tigra, the Were Woman, and of course featuring the character of Jack Russell. And then all the way in the back is where they have the prose story from the Monsters Unleashed 6 and 7 right here. And it is all written by Jerry Conway, who actually wrote some of the issues in here right before Marv Wolfman had taken over. So that is collected all the way in the back. And then, of course, the bios back here in the house ads on all the different creators that worked on this particular book, like Mike Friedrich and Don Perlin, Mike Plug, Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, Jerry Conway, Tony Isabella, Gil Kane, Doug Mensch, and Tom Sutton. Just legends in the comic field. Last but not least is the latest in the art of books. And as you all know, they do these with Marvel movies and also the shows. These are done in a landscape presentation. Zoom out a little bit. And this is the art of it. So there's a lot of concept art in here. And this is Marvel's Hawkeye. And I actually enjoyed Marvel's Hawkeye. I thought it was a really good... I want to say it was like a Christmas story, not the Christmas story, and not the greatest Christmas story, of course, because that title still, to this day, belongs to National Lampoon's Vacation. I think that's the one that I go for all the time. Although, I will say Disney's Christmas Carol was amazing, too, as well as Die Hard, because you can't talk about Christmas and not think of Die Hard or Gremlins, right? It's always hard to choose your top 5. My wife would tell you it's the Muppet Christmas Carol. But honestly, the one that I don't hear enough people talk about is Scrooge. That's one of my favorite ones. So I know the amazing Amanda and I are going to do some Christmas theme things on in December. Anyway, where the hell was I? Okay, so yes, this is concept art for the TV show. Get a lot of character designs, a lot of the looks, the final looks, of course, the way that they do turn out on the show. But one of my favorite things are the early concepts. You get backgrounds, you get original concepts here, like for things that never happened within the show that you wish kind of had happened. And that's all for the musical right there. So they do a lot of that type of artwork. David Aja, right? Supplying some of the art for this designs here as well. And yeah, these guys right here that you all remember from the Hawkeye comic by Matt Fraction and said artist David Aja. But they had to bring them to life. And of course, you know, it's so much easier to draw these characters in the comics because sometimes the costumes, as we all know, look ridiculous on screen. So they have to do different things. And this is Echo, who is getting her own show. And I saw the trailer to that. It looks pretty cool. Looks different. And you have storyboards in here. You have background, the sketches for the different trick arrows, which I love. And oh my goodness, Florence Pugh. I end up giving every one of these art books to my buddy Amazing Amanda, who collects them. May I ask her just let me have a couple of the pages there. Anyway, what was I saying? These books are hardcover and, like I said, in landscape format. So, for example, here it is next to the trim size of a trade paperback. That kind of give you an idea just how much longer the art is. And this one has 216 pages. No dust jacket, no slip. They used to come in slip cases. And I love the storyboards. Love them. So, yeah, in the comments, let me know if you collect art books. But that's it. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are picking up, which ones you hope we get an omnibus of, or I guess an omnibus reprint in the case of the Werewolf by Night. And if you collect the art books, let me know in those comments down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.